Hello, beautiful humans, and welcome back. We are continuing our deep dive into how your human design type works through the lens of your astrological natal moon placement. In previous episodes, I've already covered emotional authority, sacral authority, and splenic authority. And now we're moving into much more rarer territory. Today, we're going to be discussing ego authority and self projected authority. And two authority types that together, I think they only make up like 3% or so of the population. So if you have one of these authorities, you know how challenging it can be to find information that actually speaks to your experience. I will do my best. Now, we're going to be looking at this through all the 12 moon signs and how the moon signs influence the way the authorities operate, because even with these rarer types, your moon sign creates a significant variation in how you access and trust your authority. So let's get into it. So first, let's understand the two different types here. Ego authority is also called heart authority or will authority, and this shows up for generally manifestors and a small number of projectors who have their heart ego center defined, but don't have emotional or sacral or splenic authority. And this is one of the rare types, as I said. Your decision-making compass is your heart center, your willpower, your sense of what you have the energy and commitment to follow through on. The key principle here is, what do I have the will for? What am I willing to commit to? And your ego authority speaks through statements of commitment and desire. It's almost like a declaration. I want this. I will do this. I have the energy for this. And it comes through knowing what you're willing to put all of your effort into, all of your heart into, all of your resources into. It's tied deeply to self-worth. It asks, does this honor my value? Do I have the willpower to see this through? Is this worth my energy or commitment? It often requires you to check in to what serves your needs first, which can feel a little selfish, but that's actually how this authority type is designed to work. The challenge with ego authority is it can be confused with ego in the psychological sense, pride, defensiveness, proving something. But true ego authority is about a healthy self-interest and an honest assessment of what you genuinely have the desire to do and commit to. But it shouldn't be about shoulds or obligations. It's really about what you want and what you're willing to stand behind. And now let's talk about self-projected authority, which is also called G-center authority. This shows up for projectors that have their G-center defined, but they don't have emotional, sacral, splenic, or ego authority. If you have this one, your decision-making compass is your G-center, your sense of identity, your direction, and your love. The key principle here is you need to hear yourself speak to know what is true for you. And this really isn't about thinking it through your head. And in order to feel it in your body, you need to hear the sound of your own voice. It's literally talking it out and listening to yourself as you're speaking. And the tone, the frequency for the truth will vibrate in your body. Your self-projected authority works through self-expression, self-hearing. It's discovering what's correct for you, talking to yourself, talking to others, journaling out loud, recording voice notes, and again, noticing what resonates as true when you hear your own words. It's not about what others think or their responses. It's just about what you hear yourself say and whether it sounds true to you. And the challenge with self-projected authority is you might choose the wrong people to talk to, and they project their own expectations into the conversation, and that leads to confusing other people's responses with your own knowing. You literally just need to hear yourself talk about the decision, and in that hearing, you'll know what's true. And I think the key, like the differences between these two is ego authority, it lives in your body as willpower, desire, and commitment. And That's, do I have the heart and energy for it? Do I actually want this? And self-projected, it lives in your voice and in your words and how you're talking about something. And, do you hear yourself being really excited or not? And this is why your moon sign matters differently for each. The ego authority, your moon sign will influence whether you feel safe enough to access those genuine desires and prioritize your own will. And for self projected, your moon influences whether you feel safe enough to speak authentically and actually hear yourself rather than performing for others. Before we dive into the moon signs, let's talk about what the moon represents in your natal chart. Your moon describes your emotional body, your instinctive reactions, your needs for safety and nourishment, and how you process feelings. And for ego authority, your moon influences whether you feel worthy enough to prioritize your own desires and how comfortable you are putting yourself first, and what emotional patterns can cause you to override your will with like obligation and then performance. And for self projected authority, your moon influences whether you feel safe enough to speak authentically out loud, how comfortable you are with genuine self expression, and what emotional patterns cause you to censor or perform or speak others' truths instead of your own. And in both cases, understanding your moon sign can help you create the internal conditions that allow for your authority to actually work, your specific version. So let's go through each moon sign now. Let's start with the Aries moon. If you have one of these authority types with an Aries moon, your decision making energy is very fast, it's fierce, it's immediate. Aries moons want to act now, declare boldly, and move on, which can create a specific type of challenge for both of these. Ego authority with Aries moon, your will and desire are immediate, fierce. The challenge is distinguish between the impulsive reaction and genuine willpower. Aries moons might declare, I want this, to prove strength or react to a challenge rather than coming from authentic will. When it's real, your ego authority with the Aries moon feels like a warrior committing to a battle, a little bit like that. Not from obligation, but from like a genuine desire to engage or a real sense of excitement. Some practical tips here are maybe wait 24 hours before declaring a commitment. Give that initial fire time to either sustain or burn out, because real ego authority survives beyond just the first spark. And another is ask, am I committing or am I reacting? Because real ego authority comes from desire, not defiance or just proving a point. If you have self-projected with Aries moon, the key difference is instead of feeling your will, you will have to hear yourself speak. But your Aries moon declares and moves on before you've actually had time to say anything out loud. You speak to assert, not to discover. So slow down after you speak and ask, wait a minute, did that sound actually true? Record yourself talking it out loud. Your Aries moon moves very fast. And sometimes it can move too fast to catch your truth in real time. So listen back and notice what rings true versus what just sounded like performative bullshit. Another tip is to catch the difference between asserting and discovering. And real self-projected authority sounds true when you hear it, not just loud and certain. Not that I'm just going to do this for the sake of doing it. So let's move on to Taurus moon. If you have the Taurus moon, your decision-making energy is a bit slower. It's steady. It's body-based. The Taurus moon wants you to feel things over time, which can create a little bit of dynamic here for these authorities as well. You really need grounded presence. Because you can confuse like comfort and familiarity with the genuine truth when you have a Taurus moon, because Taurus moons like to be comfort and they're not real big on change. So with ego authority, your will is steady, it feels embodied. The challenge is that your Taurus moon's attachment to comfort could cause you to commit to things just because they're safe rather than that you genuinely genuinely want them. So when it's real, your ego authority with Taurus Moon feels solid and really settled in your body. It's not like exciting and impulsive, but it's really grounded and clear. And it also doesn't feel particularly bored either. So you want to feel yourself lean into the commitment. It's almost like a slow pulling forward. Distinguish A practical tip is to distinguish between comfort and desire. Ask yourself, do I genuinely want this, or am I just choosing it because it feels secure or out of obligation? Because your ego authority needs genuine desire, not just comfort. And number two is let yourself want impractical things. Your Taurus moon evaluates through stability, but ego authority might have the will for something a little bit more risky, a little bit more uncertain. Trust your desire even when it's not necessarily a sensible choice. Now, if you've had self-projected authority with Taurus moon, you need to hear yourself speak the truth. But Taurus moon sometimes will resist verbalizing things because saying them out loud makes them real, and that might require change. So you might stay silent rather than speak something because it could disrupt the status quo. Practical tips are to create a safe, familiar space to speak freely. Taurus moon needs comfort in order to express authentically. Talk to yourself at home in your safe space where the truth feels slightly more protected, or if you have a real trusted friend that has the capacity to hold that space for you. And number two, don't confuse familiar with true. Listen to what sounds true, that vibration in your body when you hear it, not just what sounds safe and comfortable, or again, out of obligation. Gemini moons, if you've got a Gemini moon, your decision-making energy is very quick, mental. It can be scattered across possibilities. Gemini moons tend to generate a lot of constant verbal and mental output, which can either help or completely obscure both of these authority types, depending on whether you're actually listening to yourself or just generating noise. So ego authority with Gemini moon, your will and commitment can get scattered across multiple interests and multiple possibilities. And your Gemini moon wants to keep options open. Gemini moons always want those options to explore everything. And sometimes that can make it really hard to say, I really just want this. I want to commit to this. And that's what the ego authority requires. When it's real, your ego authority with the Gemini room reveals itself when you hear yourself say, unmistakably, this is what I want right here. When you stop questioning and you just know. And if you're feeling like the commitment is hollow, that is a sign that it's not for you. Your Gemini moon is going to access through articulation. And in this case, the ego authority can feel a little bit like self-projected because sometimes it can help to talk things out and go, am I curious or am I committed? That's really the answer that you're looking for between the two. Am I curious or am I committed? Am I genuinely willing to follow through, or am I just mentally intrigued? Because interest isn't the same as I want this and it's my will, right? That's coming through. So if you have self-projected authority with Gemini moon, and the key difference here is your Gemini moon actually gives you lots of verbal material to work with, but you generate so much output that your genuine truth could get buried in volume. You talk constantly about without really hearing yourself, and you need to notice the moment something you say lands differently. It's clearer, it's more simple, it's more certain than everything else. So practical tips is notice what cuts through the noise. Your truth sounds different from your mental chatter. It's simpler, it's quieter, it's more certain. So train yourself to catch that moment. And then Again, you can use a trusted person who has capacity, who doesn't need to respond when you're talking, is the person that can just hold the space for you. And again, not someone who gives input that influences you about what to say next. And the next one is the Cancer Moon. Cancer moons, your decision-making energy is emotionally sensitive, it's protective, it's deeply attuned to others. Your Cancer moon absorbs emotional atmosphere around you and prioritizes safety, which can cause you to make decisions based on what's making everyone else feel comfortable, rather what's genuinely true for you and correct for you. So with ego authority, your will and desire can get entangled with your need to nurture and protect others. Your Cancer moon wants to commit to what keeps everyone else safe and cared for, overriding that core question of, what do I want? And when it's real, your ego authority with Cancer moon feels like a heart-centered commitment that nourishes your well-being, not just others. You feel safe enough to prioritize yourself. And maybe some of the practical tips here is, do I want this or do I feel responsible for this? Your Cancer moon often will confuse obligation with desire, and real ego authority comes from genuine will, not guilt or caretaking. And a second is to check your will when you're alone. When you get away from others' emotional energy, if no one needed me, what would I actually commit to? If you're in someone else's aura, that tends to heavily influence anyone with a Cancer moon. So some alone time might help you here. If you have self-projected authority with Cancer moon, your moon is monitoring other people's emotional responses when you're talking and adjust your words to keep everyone else comfortable. That is one of the challenges. And because of that, you're not hearing your truth. You're performing emotional safety. That's the challenge with having a Cancer moon with self-projected authority. So some practical tips are, speak to yourself first. Get alone. Talk alone before anyone else can influence what you say. Journal out loud. Do those recorded voice notes. Hear your own truth before others' reactions shape it. If you're in a situation where you're around a lot of people and you're having to make the decision, step out to the restroom or something. Take a lap outside alone. If you've got this particular moon, I'd say that choosing your witness, your person to hold space for you, is even more important, because the Cancer moon is deeply affected by the person who's listening. So speak to people that can create emotional safety for you, not people that are going to trigger some sort of emotional response. Let's move on to Leo moon. Now, if you have Leo moon, your decision-making energy is expressive and it's confident and it's naturally oriented towards being seen and a little drama. And, your Leo moon loves to perform certainty and shine, which can create a specific challenge for both of these authorities as well, that require genuine honesty over impressive delivery. So ego authority with Leo moon, your will and commitment are naturally strong and expressive. The challenge is to distinguish between genuine desire and committing to things that maybe you think make you look good or impressive. And your Leo moon might commit because it makes you look powerful or special, rather than you genuinely have the energy for it. If it's real, your ego authority with Leo moon, there is a certain radiance and a wholeheartedness and a genuine alignment between your heart and your authentic self. It's not being on stage just to be on stage. So practical tips are, check your motivation privately. Do I want this because it's correct for me, or because it just happens to make me look good? Real ego authority doesn't need an audience. And to honor those quiet desires, not everything you have will for needs to be grand or impressive. Unglamorous yeses are still valid if your heart is really into it. If you have self-projected authority with Leo Moon, there can be a need to perform for an audience, delivering words with conviction and flair without actually listening to yourself and if what you're saying is true. You can sound super certain without self-hearing. So again, this is one of those speak privately to yourself first, talk to yourself alone with no audience, record voice notes, speak in the mirror without performing. Notice what genuinely sounds true, where that vibration is, versus what just sounds good. And number 2, that is, notice what the difference between sounding good and feeling true is. Real self-projected authority doesn't sound confident. It feels true when you hear it. And did it land in your heart or did it land in your ego? I do mean the psychological ego when we're talking about Leo Moon. So next up is Virgo Moon. Virgo Moon has a certain level of edits, critiques, it refines everything. It can cause you to override your genuine authority with obligation or duty and the need to make the responsible choice. With ego authority, your will and commitment can get filtered through perfectionism and self-criticism and only wants to commit to things that you can execute flawlessly, overriding the core question, do I actually want this? What if this is, like, when it's real, ego authority with Virgo Moon feels very clean and very practical. It may not be super exciting, but there's just a solid willingness to commit. And ask yourself, do I want this or do I feel like I should? Virgo Moon confuses obligation with desire all the time. Real ego authority comes from not responsibility driven. It's that genuine, I've got the energy for this, I've got the desire for this. And it's not perfectionism driven either. And the other thing is, let yourself want imperfect things. You know, your ego authority might have the will for something that's more messy or impractical, and trust your desire even when your Virgo Moon judges it as maybe not good enough. Not good enough. If you've got self-projected with Virgo Moon, your Virgo Moon is still going to edit and qualifies and perfects everything even before it leaves your mouth. You're never hearing it's hard to hear your raw truth because it just wants to refine everything before it comes out of your mouth. So the editing is the issue. Go out there and speak before you edit in the mirror. Say the first thing that comes. Unfiltered, imperfect. Your truth is in that first unedited response, not the polished version. And the other thing is stop correcting yourself mid-sentence. Notice when you're qualifying or softening and ask, what was I actually going to say before I started the editing process? Now, moving on to Libra moons. With the Libra moon, your decision-making energy is relational. It's balanced. It's oriented towards harmony. Leo moons are constantly considering other people's perspective and needs, which can cause problems for both authorities as well. It's a little bit different than Cancers, though, because the symbol for Libra is the 2 scales. It is a much more balanced approach, but it's coming from a more like a diplomatic standpoint, or what's fair versus just getting totally swept away in others' needs. So ego authority with Libra moon, your will and desire get filtered through the need for harmony and consideration of others. Your Libra moon wants to commit to what feels fair and maintains relationship and overrides the core question, what do I want? And when it's real, the moon, your ego authority with Libra moon can feel like there's there's an internal compass, rightness, like you found the North Star that serves you, and it's internal peace, not external peace, but a genuine desire that comes before compromise. So, practical tips is decide what you want before considering others. Ask if no one would be disappointed, what would I commit to? That's your will speaking, not people pleasing. And again, don't confuse harmony with correctness for you. Keeping the peace isn't the same as having genuine will. Real ego authority honors your value first, even if it creates temporary discord. Now, if you have self projected authority with Libra Moon, again, there's this diplomatic edits with everything you say to maintain harmony. But by the time your words land, they've been so refined that your actual truth has been sort of smoothed over completely. So speak alone first. Have that conversation with yourself before anyone else can influence what you say, because your unfiltered truth lives in that more private expression. And play with this. Let your truth be one-sided. Self-projected authority speaks to your truth, not everyone else's. Give yourself permission to speak something that isn't fair or balanced, not necessarily. It's just true for you. And moving on to Scorpio moons, if you have this one, your decision-making compass is intense, it's penetrating, it's deeply private. Scorpio moons guards vulnerability and seeks control, which can cause both authorities to get either really suppressed entirely or expressed from a place of power dynamics versus genuine truth. Now, with Ego Authority with Scorpio moon, there is always an intensity with anything Scorpio. So will and commitment can feel very intense and very powerful. But your Scorpio moon's need for control can cause you to commit from a place of proving power or manipulation rather than authentic desire. You may also suppress what you truly want because revealing desires feels dangerously vulnerable. So when it's real, Ego Authority with Scorpio moon can feel like really soul deep, like a soul deep level of commitment, and it's really unshakable. A genuine will that can't be moved or manipulated. And when you have a Scorpio moon, the biggest practical tip to distinguish between power and will. Scorpio moons commit to things to feel like control or prove strength. And real ego authority comes from a genuine desire, not a psychological need for dominance. And the other is let yourself want things without defense. You don't have to broadcast your desires, but you have to be honest with yourself about what you actually want. Now, if you have self-projected with Scorpio moon, it's very similar. Your Scorpio moon will strategically guard and control what you reveal. And when it is real, you can speak around your truth. If it's not real, you can hint at it or reveal it when it only feels safe. And you can't hear what you haven't actually said. So that's one of the challenges you sort of have to keep in mind. So practical tips are just speak what you've normally kept hidden. The things that you're most reluctant to say out loud are often the closest to your truth. Your deepest self-projected authority lives in your most guarded expressions. Again, I would echo what I said earlier with ego authority is distinguish between power and control and truth. And again, using private recordings can be extremely helpful because there's not another person involved. You can speak things that you would never say to anyone else. You can have your most unguarded, unedited thoughts, and your truth lives in that private, non-strategic expression. So then we're going to move on to Sagittarius moon. Now, Sag moons, your decision-making energy is expansive and it's freedom-loving and is philosophically oriented. Sag Moons wants to keep their options open and speak in big ideas, and that can cause a little bit of restlessness or impulsivity and turning everything into an abstract exploration at times. So with ego authority with Sag Moon, your will and your desire are naturally expansive and free and oriented. But the Sag Moon's restlessness can cause you to commit impulsively and to anything that promises adventure rather than really honestly assessing sustained willpower. And when it's real, your ego authority with Sag Moon can feel expansive and a little bit adventurous, but it has staying power. There's a genuine willingness that honors the commitment process and the freedom. And practical tips are to ask yourself, am I committing to the adventure or the actual thing? And real ego authority can assess whether you have the real will for the reality of the commitment, not just the exciting possibility. And to check if you're running towards or running from. Sag Moon commits to things to escape limitations sometimes. So real ego authority comes from desire for something, not the avoidance for something else. And if you have self-projected with the Sag Moon, your Sag Moon could speak in philosophies and possibilities and big ideas rather than from a deeper personal truth. You could talk eloquently about concepts and visions without actually speaking from yourself. You got to bring it back to you. Speak in first person. I want, I need, what is true for me is. Your Sag Moon loves like universal broad statements, but self-projected authority needs your specific personal truth. Maybe another is to stop exploring and start declaring. Speak the actual truth in the now, not what's possible or future tripping. And declaring your truth instead of giving some sort of philosophical answer around it. Now, with Capricorn moons, your decision-making energy is structured and responsible and strategically oriented. And Cap moons filter everything through practicality and long-term thinking, which can cause both authorities to sort of override themselves by obligation, duty, or the need to appear mature or responsible. Ego authorities the will and commitment can get filtered through responsibility and what makes sense. And with Capricorns in particular, there's a duty component sometimes that I see. Your Cap Moon only wants to commit to what's strategic and mature, overriding the question, do I actually want this? And is this practical? And when it's real, there's a combination of what's practical and desired, solid commitment from what is authentic energy that wants to be expressed, not just duty or logic. So practical tips here are to separate capability from desire. Just because you can doesn't mean that you should or you have to. And you just ask yourself, do I genuinely have the will for this? Or am I just capable of forcing myself through it? And 2 is let yourself want impractical things. Ego authority might have the will for something that doesn't fit your long-term plan. Trust your desire even when it's not super strategically sound. You got to play with it. You got to play with it. If you've got self-projected authority with Cap Moon, you're going to sound super responsible. You're going to sound like with all these, you're going to zero in on those mature positions. And sometimes that's not the truth. Again, it's just because you can doesn't mean you should or you have to. Separating your professional voice from your truth voice can be extremely helpful. Practicing speaking without your responsible filter on. The raw, the personal, the unmanaged. Your truth voice probably sounds different than your strategic voice. And the second is say the irresponsible thing out loud. Capricorn moon censors what it feels are impractical or immature. Speak it anyway and hear if it rings true. Moving on to Aquarius moons. Your decision making energy is detached, it's intellectual, it's oriented towards authenticity and individuality. The Aquarius moon observe everything from a mental distance, which can cause both authorities to get intellectualized or rationalize or rebel for the sake of rebelling rather than genuine felt and expressed interest. Ego authority with Aquarius moon, again with the detachment. The Aquarius moon can analyze whether you should want something rather than knowing if you do. And you might be also rebelling against your own authentic desires to prove that you're not controlled by anything. When it's real, your ego authority with Aquarius moon feels like the desire honors your uniqueness without needing intellectual justification. So practical tips are get into your heart, not just in your head. Ego authority requires knowing that what you want in your body and your heart, not what makes just logical sense or seems to be even intellectually interesting. Number 2, stop rebelling against your own wants. Honoring what you want authentically is your freedom. Rebelling it can be just another form of control if it's not coming from the right place. If you have self-projected authority with Aquarius moon can speak in like concepts and collective ideas rather than personal truth. And if you are articulating fascinating perspectives without actually speaking from yourself, there it goes. The truth has gone out the door. Your truth gets depersonalized into a type of theory. Practical tips are speak in first person, not concepts. Self-projected authority requires the I feel, I want. What's true for me is. Every statement needs to come back to your personal experience, not your intellectual framework. And 2 is drop the theory and speak the experience. Speak what's actually happening for you right now, not your framework for understanding it, but your lived reality. And now we've come to the last moon, the Pisces moon. Pisces moons are porous. They absorb the collective emotions and desires so completely that distinguishing what's genuinely yours, your will, your truth, your voice, becomes really essential and is always going to be ongoing work for both of these authorities. I have the Pisces moon. I just don't have this particular authority type. I have the emotional authority type, and I can really tell you that, yes, it's very porous. So, Pisces moon, your desire and will can get lost in an ocean of absorbed energy and other people's needs. Your Pisces moon is so focused on others and assessing what you want can feel nearly impossible. You may commit out of compassion, or there's a martyrdom energy that can sometimes come, or because you've absorbed someone else's desires that are like you're assuming that are your own. And when it's real, your ego authority with Pisces moon feels both. There's almost like a spiritual alignment and a groundedness into your own specific needs at the same time. It's not just about others. And practical tips are clear your absorbed energy first. Ask, is this what I want, or am I picking up from others? Your ego authority only speaks for what you want. Remember, as I've said, this entire episode is all about you when you have ego authority. The other is to stop sacrificing your will for others. You can't genuinely serve anyone if you're depleting yourself all the time. Your ego authority is about your needs and value first. A good way to clear your energy when you're a Pisces moon is to take a shower and just let all of it wash off. If you have self-projected authority with Pisces moon, it you need to hear yourself speak your truth. But your Pisces moon is so porous that when you speak, you might be expressing everyone else's reality than yours. You can also float and almost have a poetic expression around your truth. And it can be so much so that you never land anywhere. So the expression itself doesn't sound very grounded. That is one of the challenges with this particular combo. So the practical tips I have are ground your expression in specifics. When you catch yourself speaking in really beautiful general statements, bring it back like specifically for me, what is true right now is because your truth is much more specific than, poetic waxing. And trust the simple, quiet statement beneath all of the ocean of emotion. Your self-projected authority speaks more simply and directly than your Pisces moon wants to. So listen for that grounded statement underneath all of the let's just talk about others type of energy. And one of the best ways to do this is to take the shower, just talk in the shower, because everything else is going to wash off. So there you have it. Ego authority and self-projected authority through all 12 moon signs. And I hope this gave you something that maybe you haven't considered before, a description of how your specific combination actually works in real life. Gives you something to experiment with, a little bit more nuanced, practical reality of how your moon sign sort of shapes the way your authority moves through you. So, for those of you with ego authority, remember this is fundamentally about your will and desire, not obligation, not responsibility, not what serves others, but what your heart is genuinely willing to commit and invest in. Your moon sign showed you what helps you access that honest self-interest and what causes you to override it with duty, performance, people-pleasing, obligation. And for those of you with self-projected authority, remember you need to hear yourself, to speak, to know what's true. Not think it through silently, not decide in your head, but literally talk it out and listen to what emerges. And your moon sign showed what helped or blocked that authentic self-expression. Whether it was the need for safety or that tendency to perform or the habit of editing or the pattern of speaking everyone else's truth instead of your own. So both of these authorities do have one thing in common. They require you to prioritize your truth above everything else. And in a world that's constantly asking us to consider others first, that can feel very selfish. And I'm not saying not to consider others. It's just put you first. You can't go out and help the world with an empty cup. And it helps you know what your North Star is. So, in the next part of the series that's coming, I will cover mental environmental authority and also lunar authority through all 12 moon signs. And those are, I think, the rarest in human design. And if that's you, then it's coming, I promise. As always, if this resonated, please share it out with someone who needs to hear it. The more we can support each other in trusting our own inner authority, the less we give our power away to people and systems that don't actually know what's correct for us. In the interim, remember to find beauty every day and seek the magic in the mundane.